What's going on, everybody? Darryl Hall here, and I'm excited because I get to interview a man who is special to me. One of my dearest friends in the world, owner of the ProFresh Barber brand, schools and academies located in Atlanta, Georgia. He's a husband. He's a father. But the reason we're here today is because now he is an author. That's right. Will Stamm is the author of What's in Your Hand, Entrepreneurial Lessons from One Barber's Inspiring Journey. What's up, Will? How you doing, man?
I'm doing good, man.
Man, congratulations
so
on the book, man.
Yeah, thank you, man. I appreciate it, man. You've inspired me a little bit, man. When you wrote your book and stuff, and I seen you do what you do, I was like, yo, I said, I need to write me a book too.
Yeah, man. And you had a lot to write about, man. The life you live and the work you're doing, the purpose you're accomplishing is all in these pages, man. So I want us to talk a little bit about it, man, and see if we can learn about your inspiration, your hope for the book, and just some of the content in it. Man, what do you feel like really led you to saying now is the time to write this?
Well, for years, I've been, people have been asking me, like, Stamm, how you haven't written a book? The more they find out about the story and kind of all the things that I've accomplished over the years. Yeah. And at the time, I was like, I didn't necessarily know if I could write a book. And then I was just kind of thinking to myself, like, well, maybe it's not the time. And I said, then I started to think about it. And I was like, well, once I opened up this school and kind of the full vision that I had for myself kind of came to fruition, it felt like now is the time the whole body of work is there to kind of put it in a book and reach people who you may not ever meet, right? And I thought about a book as being a way that can do that. And I remember sitting in church with you, and we were talking about vision. And you were like, yo, everything that you've already produced as fruit, I want you to draw a tree and write that on there. And then you were like, in this white space, you were like, I want you to put out there something new that you're believing God to help you produce. And the only thing I could think about as I was sitting there was like, I need to write a book. Yeah. So I ended up putting that there, and ultimately now it's here just a year later. So I'm super excited about it. I think it's going to help a lot of people. And one of my biggest takeaways now that the process is complete is it was very therapeutic for me. It helped me heal from a lot of things. Okay. It gave me an opportunity to be able to put my life in perspective and really appreciate the walk and the challenges, the ups, the downs, the learning points, the pit stops, the pivots. So it really gave me an opportunity to reflect and really allow the growth in retrospect to kind of catch up with me.
Yeah, man, that sounds amazing. I mean, your preparedness to heal, to not just look back but look ahead is just a key sign it was time to write the book. But man, you mentioned something about vision, and one thing I admire about you as a friend and as a businessman is your ability to look at something and dream, and then the diligence. And I tell you this all the time to bring it to pass. We're sitting right now in the school that you envision will be a part of your contribution to the world and your contribution to your field. And man, I can't help but not just appreciate your vision, but also remember the first time I met you. You've been cutting my hair now for 17 years here in Atlanta, Georgia, which is a city I'm born and raised in, predominantly black city. Black leadership and government and business and all of the above. Let's talk a little bit about you being a white man in a black city and just some of the tension perhaps that came with you trying to build your business in a predominantly black culture. Yeah.
Speaking about that, when we first met, I was working at somebody else's shop at the time. And when I first got here, it was kind of challenging. I was about 21 years old and just kind of, an unassuming, white male trying to promote himself and get clients. And the rejection that I felt from so many people, because obviously it being a predominantly black city, when they used to come in the barbershop and I was like, hey, you need a haircut. I'm doing what a normal barber would do. Yeah. They were like, nah, I'm not going to the whiteboard. You know what I'm saying? Now, I was actually okay, mature enough a little bit, had enough tough skin that I was like, hey, man, you the one missing out, right? Almost like a little bit of arrogance on my own part and a little bit of ego, But it helped me in that and at that time because, if I didn't have that tough skin, it could have broken me to the point where I made a career change. Like these people not going to support me. Nobody wants me to let them cut, let me cut their hair. So that was kind of a serious challenge. And then the culture of the environment, you know, being the only one of my kind, there was just some natural tension there.
Yeah.
You know, and then as I started to get better and I started to rise clientele-wise, that tension kind of grew. And, you know, me not being, you know, self-aware, some of the tension I probably created.
Okay.
You know, looking back on it. But it was there naturally, just looking for an excuse to erupt. Yeah. Kind of like a volcano. And I kind of caused a lot of it too with just lack of self-awareness.
Yeah.
And, you know, writing the book allowed me to reflect on that. And being able to reflect on those experiences, you know, gives me a greater appreciation for, number one, how far I've come, but how I can help other people who may be facing opposition, whether it's at the fault of their own or just natural opposition from current circumstance. Yeah. So I think in this book, the things that I did during that time that were errors and the things that I did that were actually positive, I think people can learn a lot if they actually dive in with an open mind and see, you know, what they can do strategy-wise to, you know, kind of overcome it. Because it's gonna face you at some point.
True.
It's not, you know, opposition just ain't for me. You know what I mean? It's for all of us. And the more we can learn to overcome that, I think the better off we can be.
Man, I agree. And, you know, I'm glad you wrote about it in the book as you kind of think through your story. And, you know, and I told you this before, man, honestly, when I first saw you cutting hair in downtown Atlanta, I had never seen a white person cutting hair in a barbershop in Atlanta in my entire life. And it was interesting because my thought wasn't, I'm not going to let him cut my hair. My first thought was like, is he lost? Like, what is he, you know what I'm saying? What is he doing here?
Is he lost is crazy.
So what's interesting is I'm looking for a new barber.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there and watching all the people get up and the results. I'm like, yo, he actually kind of nice.
Yeah.
And man, sit down in your chair on a whim, man. And then 17 years later, bro, like I feel like the relationship we've been able to grow and experience has just been awesome. Yeah. So you talk about the tension that you caused or you helped to stimulate because of a lack of self-awareness. That tension led to you being fired out of the shop, which you write about, and then having to step out maybe sooner than you anticipated to start your own shop.
Yeah.
All right. So you open your own shop in Atlanta and you have a partner.
Yeah.
And that relationship with that partner, you know, came to a head where you had to make a decision to remove the partner from the business model and continue on. Can you talk to us about not just that experience, but also talk to us about what it means to own your calling and purpose in a way that you protect it from people you think you need, but you might not really need. Does it make sense what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So talk about that story and then talk to us about what it means to own your own calling and purpose.
Yeah. Like that's so deep, right? Because that encompasses what I'm about to explain.
Yeah.
And, you know, I was fired. So you can imagine I was upset. I was kind of on fire. Like when you get fired, if you're built with the right stuff, it will set you on fire. And it set me on fire to where I didn't want to work for anybody ever again. Yeah. And I was willing to do whatever. Like I was delusional. I thought, you know, I could just do whatever, right? Didn't need any training, didn't need any business sense. I was just ignorance on fire.
Yeah.
And one of my clients at the time, he kind of saw that as an opportunity to make money as a capitalist. I don't think his intention was to take advantage of me. He just saw an opportunity to own a business.
Okay.
And he's seen a motivated individual who had some ability and, you know, wanted to take a chance, right? So he talked to me, said, why don't you open up your own? And I was like, dang. That was the first time it was like, well, dang, could I actually do it, right? Because a lot of times we think, all right, just go get another job, right? And I was just like, well, I don't necessarily know how to do it. And he's like, listen, man, I'll help you. And that was like everything to me, like, oh, help?
Wow.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So he kind of just worked his way into a partnership. Now, you know, my girlfriend at the time, that's my wife, you know, shout out to her. Women know. I would tell anybody. And it's one
especially
thing,
the right woman.
Man, the right woman, tell you, she know. If she's into you like that, she knows. And she was like, nah, I don't like this guy. And she barely even knew. She just was listening to the conversation I was telling. And I was like, nah, you tripping because I'm young, ego, hurt. You know what I'm saying? So I'm a little delusional. I ain't seeing things clearly. So I'm like, man, I'm going to do it anyway. And it's so crazy because I was like, I think it'll be fine. You know, I'm not seeing the bad character traits. He's trying to help me. He's been my client. We cool. I don't really see no serious red flags. And then as we get into it, he's not necessarily handling all the responsibilities like he said he was. And the reason why I got into it in the first place was I felt like it was the time for me, even though I was a little hurt. And when you're emotional, you kind of make bad decisions.
Yeah.
But my saving grace was that this is what I was called to do.
Yep.
So I'm just going to do it and let God just work the rest of it out.
Yeah.
Right. And I knew he didn't cut hair. So I'm like, even if it hits the fan, I hold all the leverage.
You do.
And that's when I learned like the power of leverage. Like even when things go bad, if you have leverage, there's always a way. And I was like, if he don't cut and the shop fall apart, he'll sell it to me because he can't make no money off it. I can just go in there and cut and make money. So that was like the deciding factor to say, yo, if you're going to do it, you young, take the chance. I'd rather take it now than 20 years down the line be suffering from woulda, coulda, shoulda.
Yep.
So I jumped out there and started the shop. And it was so crazy. There was a barbershop next door when I first got the space. And I had to go in and ask him, like, would it be okay if I opened up and I was the only barber and I just hired like some braiders or something? Because I didn't see his business lasting long because it was just him in there and he was barely there. I drove by every day. And when I caught him in there, I pulled up and he was like, yeah, that's fine. Shocked me because I had to get his permission to even get the space.
I can imagine. I'm assuming the landlord.
Yeah, it was like, yo, is the shop there? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, okay.
So when I brought him back to sign paper saying I could do it, the landlord was shocked. We signed the lease. But I was like, man, how am I going to get this thing open? And then that was in February 28th of 2010.
Wow.
And then April 1st of 2010, he closed and I opened up April 6th.
Wow.
And it was just like, that's when I knew like I had the favor of God on my life.
Yeah.
Because I was doing things emotionally. I was frustrated. I was annoyed. There was a lot of things wrong with my clouded decision making.
But still.
Yeah. You know what I mean? And God has been there every single time. Yep. It almost to the point where it's like, as long as I'm operating in my purpose, it's like I can't fail. No matter how cloudy it is, how much it rains, how much it storms, as long as my feet are planted and rooted, the tree continues to grow. Yeah.
Man, that's amazing. For you to not just recount your story, but to acknowledge the presence of God in your story and that divine activity that's superintending all your human decisions, some good, some bad, right? But yet that divine superintendence still giving you favor, open doors, and making stuff possible for you. Yeah. And I think that's the inspiration behind the title of the book, right? What's in your hand. Yeah. Kind of correlating your story to Moses' story in Exodus. Yep. And how Moses just had a stick in his hand, standing at an obstacle, leading people at the Red Sea, and needing a miracle. And God asked him, "What's in your hand?" Told him to hold up the rod. For you, it's not a stick; it's been clippers, right? And the Lord putting those clippers in your hand, and then giving you favor to use what's in your hand to just change your life, inspire clientele, and at this point now build a business. Yep. Right. So let's move forward to the global pandemic. I think we all, if we don't remember where we were when quarantine was the law of the land, I think we all kind of remember what we felt through that experience. Yeah. And thinking about you opening your first shop in 2010, right? Yep. The hand of God on you as you open after that 2 other shops. Yep. Now here we are, 2020, 2021, and God has been with you. Yeah. But now your business is hemorrhaging revenue. You're losing a lot, and I'm sure most people probably don't know how much. And then you're faced with the tough decision of having to close that first shop that you opened back, you know what I mean, April 6, 2010. The pandemic forced it to close. What was it like having to trust God through that experience, and describe to us any wrestling you felt coming to the point we had to close one of your shops?
So my first thought when we had to close is like, what is going on? Like, it was like a blur. Yeah. Because I'm already knowing like I'm contractually obligated in my businesses. But my first thought was the people. You know, like part of, you know, being a leader and opening up a business is your commitment to other people.
Yep.
Right. And the fact that we had to close and they didn't have a way to make money and I know they needed it.
Yeah.
It really was just having me sitting there like, I just don't have a real good answer right now.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if anybody's ever been in that space where you're just sitting there thinking like, I wish I had a good answer, but I just don't.
Yeah.
And I had to sit there and just pray about it. And the thing that kept coming over to me was like, I learned something a while back. You know, one of the older gentlemen, you know, in my childhood he said, Will, he said, if something ever tried to rob you, don't fight it. And I said, why? He said, because as long as they don't kill you, you can always get it back. Because they can't steal what's in here. They can take your purse, but as long as they don't take your pulse, you can always get it back. And that thought just came bringing back to me like, all I got to do is just do right by these people. Mm-hmm. So I set up a Zoom and we had like 24 barbers at the time across 3 locations.
Wow.
Business was booming. We were thriving. Just opened up a new shop 6 months in.
Yep.
And I was just like, listen, y'all, I just was being authentic, being transparent. This is unprecedented times. I don't have a real good answer.
Yeah.
But as a matter of fact, I don't have the answer. Mm-hmm. I said, but I don't want you to worry about having to pay rent. If you have to go get a job, you'll get no judgment from me. You have to take care of your families and do what you need to do to survive. If you need something, call me privately and I'll see if I can help you.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying? So it was a moment in leadership where it was like, as the leader, you have to be willing to accept the fall or the hit first for your people.
Yeah.
And I think in times like now, everybody wants to be the leader when it's sunshine. Mm-hmm. But when it rains, nobody wants to get wet. Mm-hmm. And sometimes you have to get wet. And I did, man. I lost $50,000 in 45 days.
Wow.
And I had to sit home and just look my kids in the face every day like, Daddy, you're not going to work today? And I'm like, no. But mommy's going to work.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So from just a husband, you know, being the provider and protector of my family, knowing my wife had to go out and I had to sit home, it sent me into like a state of like depression. I didn't feel very good.
Yeah.
I didn't feel very strong. I didn't feel very manly. I didn't feel like myself.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I remember talking to you and some of my other friends at the time, and you guys were, you know, kind of encouraging me like, yo, man, take care of your health. Like your family needs you. And I remember kind of getting aggressive on the phone with y'all at the time. Like, yo, you easily can say that because you guys were still getting a check.
Yeah.
And I remember the phone getting silent. And everybody was just like listening for a second. And, you know, I was just, everything I felt like I was working for 10 years.
Yeah.
In the moment of 2020, I felt like was just being snatched from me. And it was completely out of my control.
Yep.
And the only thing I had was my faith and belief that I'm doing the right thing. Mm-hmm. I'm just going to continue to do that until I can't do that no more.
Yep.
And I thought if I lost it all, I still know how to go get it back.
Yeah.
So we were able to keep all 3 locations open for another couple years until I ultimately closed one.
Yeah.
In 2022. But just going through that and having to rebuild back through, I mean, it was probably the most challenging time as a business owner because it's easier to accept a little bit of accountability when you know it's your fault.
Yeah.
When it's not, it's so easy to place blame.
Yeah.
And I always tell people, like, when you place blame, you lose your power to control the situation.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Man, that's incredible. You know, the money you lost, the business you lost, the potential to impact other barbers, whatever you lost, you know, during the pandemic, I think what you gained is an amazing perspective.
Yeah.
On top of the wisdom you had already had from your experience. And man, I'm thankful to you that you put it all in this book, What's in Your Hand, Entrepreneurial Lessons from One Barber's Inspiring Journey by William Stamm, my brother, my friend, my barber. Congratulations again on the book, man.
Yeah.
Before we close out, tell us where we can find this book.
So you'll be able to find it on Amazon, but you'll also be able to come get it at any one of my store locations in Atlanta, Georgia. So whether you're in Smyrna, Atlanta, or over here in Brookhaven at the Academy, I'll have copies on deck that'll be signed, autographed copies. If you ever see me and you have my book that you've purchased, I will sign it. All you got to do is ask. So I appreciate everyone's support for just even thinking worthy enough of me to purchase my book and understanding that you might be able to find something valuable in there. I'm truly grateful. And over the last 38 years, man, it's been my life's work. And my goal for the book is to help you understand that everyone has a story, and your story is just important as my story. And if you can grasp the power of your personal experiences and what you've already been through and overcome, and you can harness that power of what's already in your hand, you can make a difference in the world, just like I set out to each and every day.
That's what's up. Hey, y'all, get the book. I know you can hear the wisdom. I'm telling you, it's going to be an amazing value added to your life. Appreciate it, man.
All right, baby. Thank you.
Congratulations, boy.
Yep. What's up, y'all? Will Stamm here, owner of Pro Fresh Barber Academy and Professional Cuts Barbershops. I'm super excited to be a new author with my first book releasing, What's in Your Hand, now available on Amazon.